Are you a man looking for an intensive program to help you overcome your sexually addictive behaviors? Gateway to Freedom is your answer. Gateway to Freedom is a 3-day intensive workshop for men seeking to overcome sexually addictive behaviors. Whether married, single, or divorced, Gateway to Freedom will help men regain hope for a new life of purity and real contentment. The workshop is conducted by experts in the field of sexual addiction recovery. Your experts have over 35 years of combined experience. Read testimonials of workshop alumni at gatewaymen.com. Get all the info and register online at gatewaymen.com or call 1-800-49-PURITY.
Hi, my name is Jonathan, and I'm the founder of the Gateway to Freedom workshop. I want to personally invite you to be part of our next workshop, coming up October 2nd through the 4th in Pennsylvania. So call us today at 1-800-49-PURITY or visit gatewaymen.com.
Welcome to Pure Sex Radio, training men, educating women. Are you ready to get real and start living each day in purity? This dynamic program is designed to educate, encourage, and equip listeners with the tools necessary for living a life of sexual purity. Pure Sex Radio brings you the best in mobile talk radio. Listen to real-life struggles, learn how to overcome lust, pornography, and sex addiction, and get serious about purity. Your hosts for Pure Sex Radio are Jonathan Doherty and Stephen Cervantes. Jonathan is the director of Be Broken Ministries and founder of the Gateway to Freedom Workshop for Men. Stephen is the founder of the Hope Counseling Center. Visit us online at puresexradio.com. And now, please welcome Jonathan and Stephen on Pure Sex Radio.
Good day, radio listeners. Welcome to this week's edition of the Pure Sex Radio broadcast. We're glad to have you here with us. My name is Jonathan. I'm here with Stephen. Stephen, how are you today?
I'm blessed. Thank you for asking.
Excellent. Well, before we get started, I wanted to let you know that we have a 3-day workshop called Gateway to Freedom for men that are wanting to overcome any kind of sexual struggle or stronghold. This could include pornography. Maybe there have been affairs. Anything in which this guy is wanting to deal with his sexual brokenness and come to a place of understanding what's at the root and how to get hope and a new direction for moving forward. These Gateway to Freedom workshops are conducted all throughout the year in various parts of the country, and we always have one coming up around the corner. So if you'd like to get more information about this great resource, simply go to gatewaymen.com. That's gatewaymen.com. Well, Stephen, I'm going to pass it off to you, and we're going to just see where this goes this week when we're talking about this idea of the great change or this great transformation that can occur. Because I think last week's program was really diving into the depths of crisis and what happens in that moment when all the truth comes out. And some people might have gotten to the end of that broadcast and thought, man, this is heavy. Where's you gave me 60 seconds of hope at the end of that broadcast, but where's more?
More hope. That's good. So let me back up to introduce the idea for today's discussion. I'm reading this book called Complex PTSD by Pete Walker. And it's a very easy to read book. It's kind of fun. He's just talking about the impact of trauma and how many of us are traumatized in our youth. And it can include being left alone a lot and poorly parented, so you have to figure out stuff by yourself, or parents gone, parents angry, parents drinking, you're sort of the lost child trying to figure it out. And then there's the trauma of, sexual abuse and those kind of things also. But based on very traumatic childhoods, and that means difficult, struggling. Put a child in charge of figuring out their own life, okay? That's sort of traumatic. And they find sexuality comforting. And so stress and distress needs relief, so find your sexuality and find comfort. Mm-hmm. And that just happens over and over and over again, and it weaves in, and then it takes over and sort of sets the stage. So reading in this book, there's this one paragraph that jumps out at me about the difference. Would you read that paragraph, Jonathan?
Sure. It says, towards the end of a long-term therapy, a male client told me, yesterday I was contemplating what I've discovered in the years of our work together. And I'm amazed at how much my values have shifted away from those of the macho family and culture I grew up in. I feel now like I prefer the arts to science, novels to nonfiction, gardening to watching golf, and hanging out with my spouse at home to partying at the bar.
So I was thinking about this idea, if you work on yourself, and we advocate that a lot, go to group, read books, keep learning, be a student of emotional and spiritual growth, stay on the journey for a long time. If you have bad skills and bad beliefs and bad practices and you're trying to change your mindset so you can change your behavior, after a long journey, you can get to this place where you discover some new parts of yourself, or you free some old parts of yourself to develop. And I thought, it's Jonathan and I sitting across from microphones, and you, of course, thank you for being there. And we're just talking about life. And I thought, I wonder how Jonathan would say he has changed. Reading this guy who said, I've been working for a long time, and I'm stopping to assess what has happened to me after doing all this work. What if I just did a short assessment of my life right now, just to see where I am, and what's the transformation? And last time we talked about the shock, the beginning, how traumatic it is when a guy is exposed or discovered in terms of he's got this whole underworld of fantasy and porn, to what happens when you work on that for a long period of time. What do you discover? So I made Jonathan write down a list before the show, and he's going, why am I always on the spot here, I thought, Jonathan, you're just good material.
Well, there's two things that I want to make sure the listeners know before we get into this. One is that I'm not even close to being complete on my journey. Amen. So I want to make sure people know that. So when we're talking about some of these changes, don't think that any of them are permanent or perpetual.
Are perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Throw that in there.
The second thing is exactly what Steve said. He gave me about 30 seconds right before the program. So this may, if this comes across as if not having been thought in a deep way, it's because I only had 30 seconds to prepare for this.
We're family. We love you, Jonathan. We accept you. We thank you for putting your life on parade for all of us to look at and learn from. So tell me, just launch into your little list. Tell me either the before and after. I don't know. How are you going to set this up?
There's two sort of categories that I would put this in terms of what I'm going to talk about as far as transition. One is just kind of behavior and environment and just, activity. And so what has changed in that regard? The other is more internal. Like, hey, what were the things that were spinning kind of inside me, and how has that changed? Does that make sense?
Yes, that's perfect.
So I kind of want to start because I think one of the things that you had highlighted when we were off air was some of the external stuff, some of the behavior kind of stuff. So one of the things I would start with is, okay, what I was doing before was I was engaged in all of this pornography and sex secretly. So those were the behaviors that I was engaging in quite often and quite a bit. And so I would say that the big transition there is that all that time that used to be spent looking at porn or trying to set up sexual encounters or being involved in sexual encounters has been replaced with relationship. But also, that's kind of the cookie cutter answer. I would also say on another practical level, it's been replaced with things like reading and listening to great podcasts from, if people were to ask me if I had kind of a side hobby, I would say it's probably Christian apologetics. I absolutely love, thinking through about how do you defend the Christian faith. And so guys like Ravi Zacharias and Tim Keller and, reading things like C.S. Lewis and some of these kind of, that has become if I was to say that before, porn was my hobby, well, now I'd say, these activities of reading and listening to podcasts, those have become my hobby, along with the fact that so much of that time that was formerly wasted in porn and these other things is now replaced with being present with my family and my wife and even friends.
Wow, that is good. Because think about what you just said. I was consumed with these escaping, fantasizing, ritual, sexual behaviors. Right? That consumes a lot of time and energy and money. You got to work still, and you got to take care of yourself and get home and get sleep and then turn around and start another day. But what would happen if all day you didn't invest yourself in escaping and fantasy and ritualizing and then resting so you could go fantasize again? You know what I mean? If you were not in that cycle, and so you said relationships are better. I'm reading and challenging my mind. I'm listening to podcasts, and I'm defending my faith. And you're going from false God to real God.
Mm-hmm. And I want to, and as we go through some of these, I want the listeners to know that I've been on this journey for over 16 years now. So I don't want to make it sound like when I'm talking about these pretty significant and major transitions, that a switch was flipped in my life, and then it was like, oh wow, you just completely changed. No, it was much more gradual, and like I said, I'm not even complete. I got a long ways to go. So even as I look at these things that I'm doing now that are different from what I was doing with all that time with porn, there's so much deeper that I could go into my relationship with my wife and with my children and with my friends. So it's always on a kind of a continuum. So I want the listeners to know that this wasn't like, oh, you know what, day 2 of my recovery, all of a sudden I was invested in my relationships and I was invested in my faith. And no. It was a lot more blood, sweat, and tears than that, because here's the thing I noticed. When I started saying, you know what, engaging in porn and all these other sexual sins, that's not the way that I should be living my life. It was very difficult to then transition into things that were healthy because it's completely unfamiliar territory. And so it's not like I just said I was gleeful and like, wow, yay, relationships. I was more like, I have no idea how to be present in a relationship. I don't know how do you be emotionally present and invested with another person? I don't know how to do that.
That is a wonderful statement. How to be present relationally, right? Mature and insightful. Because remember what I said early, traumatic beginnings need comfort, right? So you find sexuality, and then anytime there's stress or grief or loneliness or fatigue, sexual comfort. But now you say, okay, I'm laying down that template of sexual comfort. Mm-hmm. Where am I going to get my comfort? Where am I going to go to rest? And can I really enjoy, can I really be present in a relationship? Can I really bring all of myself? That's not what I practice doing. Mm-hmm. I practice bringing minimal me and let you do whatever you need to do so that the minimal thing can happen so you can say, you talk to me so I can go away and do what I want to do. Right? Mm-hmm. And you're saying it's not comforting or comfortable. Spot on. You have to get to a point of rest and relearning, right? What's supposed to happen in relationships?
And it just takes a while, too, before you recognize the good of moving in that direction. What I mean by this is when you've made porn and sexual sin the familiar territory in which you live and which you, even though you know it's suffocating you, I mean, you know it because it is. Mm. Even when you start turning to that which is healthy, at first, it doesn't even come close to the thrill and immediate pop that sexuality gives you. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're trading one thrill for another. You're trading an empty, suffocating thrill for something that goes very deep. It's rich. It's real air, but it doesn't have the same pizzazz, and it's more of
mean in the beginning.
In the beginning, and even now, I would say it doesn't have the same thrill. It has a much deeper sense of goodness to it. And so you can't be assuming, too many people assume, hey, change looks like, let me trade this one type of cotton candy over here for this other type of cotton candy over here. I just need to get a different kind of sugar high. And it's like, no, you're trading cotton candy for vegetables. All right? And at first, there's nothing exciting about eating those vegetables because you're like, oh, this is terrible. Give it enough time, and you see your health turn around completely, and you realize, I think I want to keep eating vegetables.
That's good. You know, when you're talking, the thought that occurred to me was, you can live in sexual fantasy land and be consumed, but you're pretty stunted. You don't enjoy the richness of life, relationships, your God, what you were designed to be. You're just repetitive and stunted, and that's why you say the words you say, hollow, empty, shallow, troubled. No rest here, but got to go. No real rest, but I got to go. And now the things you're saying that are interesting are people. Because it just doesn't mean wife. It means kids. It means brothers in Christ, right? Relationships, right? 1. 2, you said I'm reading and I'm listening and I'm learning. That's taking care of you. So 1, I'm doing better.
And let me say something on that, because it's healthy self-care. And see, the thing is, because the deception that we have in our pornography and all that kind of stuff is, I'm taking care of me, right?
Ooh, that's good.
Well, no, you're not. You're destroying you. And so then there's a sense of when you get over, this is where a lot of Christians, I think, struggle, because they struggle with healthy self-care because they think of it as being selfish in the same way they think of, taking something that's not theirs as being selfish. And it's like, no. When you are investing in the development of your mind and taking care of your body and feeding your spirit and your soul on good things, the vegetables, so to speak, of good, that's good. There's nothing wrong with sitting alone for an hour and investing in a book that is enriching your soul and your mind. That's good self-care. That's not selfish. And so we have to also make a distinction there between the kind of quote-unquote self-care that we've been thinking about.
Now I have to do a side note here, okay? I'm reading this book on organizing your life and tidying up your home. And so there's this question that's asked. When you go through your belongings, you're supposed to ask this question: does this bring me pleasure? Does this bring me joy? And if it brings you joy, keep it. And if it doesn't, get rid of it. And like you go through clothes. Does this bring me joy? I like that, though. That feels good. I like the way that looks. But I haven't worn. No, get rid of it. So this is an odd statement right in the middle of this discussion. But I'm telling you something about myself and me learning and self-care. Because I want to learn to live well wherever I am. And if my place is cluttered and I'm under stress, am I living well? Oh, no. And so this is my little side note of self-improvement, of learning, of using my time to invest, to grow me, to help create a space, hopefully where other people can rest too, and teach other people to rest. Well, that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to participate in the education of others. So is that selfish or is that self-care?
I think that's self-care because, and to me, the key word that you used in that wasn't necessarily joy. It was rest. Because, and I get it in terms of like decluttering your house, in terms of saying, okay, ask this question, does this thing bring you joy? And if it does, keep it. If it doesn't, don't keep it. But for a person who maybe is just coming out of a sexual addiction or pornography addiction, to ask that question of themselves, they might have a skewed view of what joy is.
Oh, how interesting, yes.
They think, hey, joy is that thrill, that pop, that whatever it is about me. It's like, no. But the idea of rest is a better question, because you know what? The person that's looking at porn and having all these affairs, they don't have rest in their soul.
No, that's right. And so, this is the way down the line dialogue, really. But you're helping that listener who's going, what is he talking about, right? Because this is way down the line. How do you have more rest and more peace and more joy and more contentment and feel like you're living as you were designed to live? That's the mission. Not did you pick up some sexual behaviors that give you a little moment's pleasure, but you have to hide them and live in shame.
So let me tell you another one of these transitions that was more on kind of the external that happened. And I'm already getting the feeling here, Stephen, we're probably going to have to do two broadcasts on this, so
Okay.
just setting you up.
All right,
Listeners,
thank
this
you.
is how we produce the show, is on the air. So anyway, one of the other ones was that clearly anybody who is involved in pornography and trying to kind of live a double life is going to be perpetually lying. And so lying was a huge part of my old life. And I put with lying being in the dark or darkness. Because it's kind of like, well, that's what I was doing. I was putting all these things in the dark. I was making sure that other people around me were in the dark about what was going on. And so I'd say then the big transition, the big change is now being a man of honesty. And this is another one of those things that was not a quick or easy transition, like flipping a switch and just going, okay, well, I guess I need to tell the truth now. In fact, when we do our workshops, one of the things when I talk about this issue of being honest is I say you have to learn to tell the truth. And it's like, so the change that had to happen was, wait a second, I'm a professional liar.
Wow.
I don't know. I actually had to admit, I don't even know how to tell the truth. In the same way that I didn't know how to be present in a relationship.
Do you think that's unique to you, or do you think that's part of the whole culture of hiding sexuality?
With the amount of men that I've worked with in this ministry, I would say it's more of the cultural, it's part of just the culture of hiding and lying.
Yes.
That then when you say, hey, tell the truth, and the guy kind of gives you that halfway puzzled look, or the guy that says too confidently, I can do that, then I know
it's already done. Yeah, I already did that. What'd you tell me to do? Everything's done. It's all neat and in order. That's all that lying stuff, right?
And when a guy tells me too confidently that I can do that, then I say, well, you're lying right now. You're not telling the truth right now because it's not that easy.
Yes. Okay. So I was trying to establish that's part of that culture, and when you're out there talking to lots of folks that are caught up in their little subculture, they have to lie. Mm-hmm. And now you're saying coming out of this dark place means truth.
It means now you have to tell the truth. And the reason I think it's so hard is because of the reasons why you've been lying for so long. It's to protect your image. It's to protect this false image that you've been projecting to everybody, that as the charming guy or the nice guy or the one who's got it all together, or the super religious guy or whatever the image is that you've built. The reason you keep lying is to protect that. And so when it's time to tell the truth, because listen, the truth has come out, somebody else knows your story, then you're faced with what do I do with that image? Apparently it must die. It must be destroyed. And I don't know how to do that. That's a little scary because all I've done is protect that image with my lying.
Wow.
And now you're telling me I got to tell the truth, and there's a rawness to my being and if I can put it this way, a nakedness to my soul. And I don't know if I can do that.
Well, and what's the image? If I'm not my image, then what's the truth? And what, it's pretty ugly and hard to go.
It's like, you want me to admit I'm a broken, sinful man?
And even, let's make it worse, and I struggle sexually?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, fine, you have a drinking problem or something, okay, you overspend, you eat too much, okay, fine. But you want me to admit brokenness and sexual struggle, too? Mm-hmm. I mean, come on, you expose me to the world here?
And this transition from dark to light and from lying to honesty, even though it's very, very difficult, and especially in the early stages of recovery. I mean, if you've developed a deep addiction to sex and porn, or really to anything, to come out of that, it's foolish to have the expectation that I can drive a stake in the ground one day and say from that day forward there will be no more struggle and everything will be fine. And that's why it's so difficult, this journey to honesty, because there's really a lot of patterns to undo. And recovery is very messy. There are stumblings all along the way. And when I say stumblings, I mean you're gonna slip with porn. You're gonna slip with some of these things. And I know there are wives out there that are punching their radios right now because they're like, they don't want to hear that. They do not want to hear.
They just want a clean date and a turnaround and a fresh start and never again promise.
And the problem, and this is why it's often so difficult for a man to then tell the truth, is because what happens on that first stumble? Is he going to tell the truth and stay in the light and deal with the consequence and keep trying to work forward? Or is he going to say, I don't even know how to address this, and let me pull my image out of the closet and pull him out in front and protect that and make it seem like I'm good recovery guy now. Before I was good whatever else, but now I'm going to create a whole other image. I'm good recovery guy.
Yeah, and I'm good. Well, you doing good? I'm good. You're good. Yeah, we're good. We're saved. Everything's good. Just good. But that's the lying, right? It's like nobody's that good.
Yeah.
Life's a struggle. It's hard. It's stressful.
And here's the confidence that I've had over the years in being able to be honest. And the confidence is this. It's not in my goodness. It's not in whether or not my wife or anybody else will receive that truth with grace and kindness. My confidence in being a man of honesty is that God himself has said that I am approved before him because of Christ. Meaning, I am fully and completely and eternally accepted. So there's my confidence for saying, I'm just going to tell the truth. Because if the God of the universe, the one who has the power of life and death in his hands, has said, I totally accept you based on the blood of Jesus, then whatever I say to you, Stephen, or to my wife or anybody else, it's irrelevant what your response is to me, because his response has been, I fully and totally accept you.
And, this is where I have to give my little talk on self-esteem versus God-esteemed.
Mm-hmm.
How do we esteem ourselves when we know we're a big, giant mess? We break down, we get tired, we do stupid. How can we esteem ourselves when we know how stupid we've been? We cannot. Self-esteem is like a falsehood. It's God-esteem, right? When you're God-esteemed, when your value and worth comes from your Father and you're loved, right? Then you got the program working right.
Mm-hmm. I would say one more thing. We got a couple minutes here, one more transition, and then I guess next program we'll deal more with some of the internal stuff that was going on. But along the lines of this lying and to honesty, is I would also put in there that a lot of my lying was hiding from relationship. The idea of I don't know how to be connected to my wife, and so I lie to hide from the pain and the difficulty of what it looks like to be really engaged in a one flesh relationship, a true oneness. And so I would say that the transition there then is that I've gone on a journey of how do I connect with my wife? How do I connect with her mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? How do I connect with her? And I have to admit, it's way easier in some ways for me to just tell the truth about everything about my life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's a whole nother level of, I guess you could say, transparency to be one with my wife. And that's a much longer,
Ben, why
deeper,
do you
more
use
difficult
the word
journey.
transparency?
Well, what I mean is, okay, so Stephen, I can be honest with you, right? I can tell you the truth about what I've done, my behaviors, my actions, maybe even my thoughts.
But then I go home to a different house than you go home to.
But you and I have a very different dynamic of relationship than a husband and a wife have. It's a whole different level of intimacy. So when I say transparent, I mean it's like I'm glass with my wife. Every aspect of my being, every fiber of who I am is intertwined with her. And so therefore, if
are you talking about spiritually or talking about emotionally?
I'm talking about everything.
Because that's a journey for that to emotionally happen.
And that's what
spiritually,
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, that I've been on a journey of connecting with my wife. I don't even know how far down the journey I am because I don't know how far it goes.
Right.
Because if you really are one, is there any end then? It's like a circle, right?
But you're saying you feel so safe with your wife that you could tell her anything. What's confusing still is transparency. I mean, let me could kind of define that a little bit.
Here's the thing.
Because open and sharing and developing with her, because sometimes I'm still even learning me. I don't even have the right words to say when I'm trying to explain something.
Well, the only way I can put it is that I would put transparency in a higher category than honesty. Meaning transparency is saying there is, if I could put it this way without sounding crass, it's nakedness of being. Like total.
And lying is hiding your being, and so transparency is more nakedness of being.
Yeah, and I think there are only I think marriage is one of those relationships in which you can be that.
No, that's right.
And so,
yep, that's it.
So we gotta stop there, folks. We are going to continue this conversation in our next broadcast next week, and we look forward to having you back here then. Take care.
Pure Sex Radio is paid for by Be Broken Ministries. Visit us online at puresexradio.com.